This is a very interesting and sometimes controversial question. When we talk about phonics, we need to understand a few things. First and foremost, phonics is not a new idea. If we take our own experience of learning to read Hindi, which uses the Devanagari script, you realize that you were taught the vowels, you were taught the consonants, you were taught the combined consonant-vowel sounds, and using this rubrics, you learned how to read Hindi. To a large extent, when we read Hindi phonetically, you will find that it is true to the language. The second idea that we must understand is that phonics is only a very, very small part of the language structure. Very often when I meet educators and when we talk about what is it that we are doing about language learning, they will say that we are doing phonics. Phonics really is only a subset of the reading process itself, which is the decoding part of reading where it comes into use. The comprehension part of it still needs a language edifice. The way that phonics eventually gets adapted and used in a school for English is where the challenge lies. English uses the Latin script and adapts it for its own sounds. The Latin script is used by a number of other languages like French or German or Russian, and you will find that each of them adapts the sounds of the same letters differently. When we look at English, it is only about 25% phonetic. So when you teach a child the sounds of a, b, k, d, there is definitely a certain value at a fundamental level. For me to know how to decipher k, at, as cat is very useful as a strategy. I will use it as a young reader. I will use it wherever it becomes applicable. But by itself, if I now start taking it to the next level, where I may teach you how to use the word ch as a phoneme of ch. Now the problem is that just like most of the other letters, ch also has multiple sounds. You could be sh, it could be k, and so you do not know what choices to make. Now you start complicating the process of reading by asking the child to apply many, many rules, and those rules do not necessarily apply consistently. So the important aspect when we look at phonics is the fact that you teach the basic sounds of the letters, you teach that one sound of the letter which is the phonetic sound, and then you also simultaneously start getting the child to be familiar with dealing with it from a sight perspective as well, which means that I cannot read mischievous entirely through a phonic approach. I must also have heard the word before. I must also have seen the word as a whole and heard the word simultaneously. So these are the mechanisms that eventually, all of us intuitively use to become good readers. If I am taught phonetics for too long, the challenge is that my brain is wired to look at every word as a set of letters. My brain is wired not to look at that as a single entity, but as multiple entities. And the moment you start reading phonetically, the problem is that it becomes a very, very cognitive process, which means that all my attention has to be focused on just decoding the word. So I would have to read it once or decode it once and then read it again in order to comprehend it. If we are to become mature readers, you necessarily have to become whole word readers or sight readers, which means that when I read a sentence through sight, I not only read words as single units, I also do it in a very non-cognitive or associative way, which means that I don't have to focus my attention on decoding the word. All my focus can be on the deciphering the meaning of the word, the comprehension of the sentence itself. So this is the way in which we become enthusiastic readers. Because if reading becomes a chore, as it often is when the child reads through the phonetic process, you will find that the child is not a very happy reader. And if you really want to create readers, you necessarily need to make it effortless, joyful, and then you have an enthusiastic reader.